Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David.
I'm Stefan.
And today we're going to be looking at all the red cards in Eldritch Moon.
So we're gonna evaluate the cards and we're gonna basing it on limited, so draft or sealed. And this will be a bit different than normal because this will be a small set.
Yes, exactly. So you just have less cards in actuality. But we're still going to be looking at them during our same tier system, and that is tier 1. Those are excellent cards. If we give it a tier 1 score, it means this is a bomb, this is a premium removal spell. You're going to want to play this color when you draw or when you get this card out of a pack. Then we've got the tier 2 cards. These are really good. If you got a number of them, you're going to want to, it pushes you into a color. If you're already in that color, it's auto include. Then we got tier 3. Those are your filler cards. We're going to use those to fill out our mana curve. Then finally, we got the cards that we say, just put those aside. They don't have a score. They're probably really good situationally or maybe in constructed or in some other format. All right, well, let's get started with all the common cards. We're going to start with our first card, and that is Prophetic Ravings. For 1 red, it's an enchantment aura, and when we enchant a creature, that creature has haste, plus we can tap it to discard a card and draw a card. So it turns it into a Mad Prophet with haste in actuality. That card is really good. This card is not so good. I would say put it aside. Why? Because it's not a creature that has that ability. You have to first put it on a creature, and then sure, that creature has haste, and we can tap it to discard a card and draw a card, which is good. But if somebody removes that creature, then the aura also goes away. So you 2-for-1 yourself. Really, really bad.
Yeah, I like the effect, but because it's an aura, it's just a shame.
Yeah, true.
So the next one, Bold Impaler. A red, it's a Vampire Knight, a 1/2, and for 2 and a red, Bold Impaler gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So it's a good mana sink later game. So I like it because, yeah, it's good early game and good late game. So we'll put it at tier 3, just a good filler.
Exactly. Think about this. On turn 3, you can attack with this guy, and you can attack as a 3/2, which is basically the same as these Eldrazi horrors, which is very decent.
Mm-hmm.
And late game, see, it doesn't say you can only do this 1 per turn, so you can pump 6 mana into it and give it +4/+0. Pretty sweet. Next card, Galvanic Bombardment. For 1 mana, it's an instant, and it states that this card deals X damage to target creature where X is 2, plus the number of cards named Galvanic Bombardment in your graveyard. So it gets better the more of these cards you have. We've seen this card in blue before. We say, okay, you only really want that one if you've got 3 or 4 or maybe more of those cards. That's not the case with Galvanic Bombardment, because in this case, just one of them would already be okay to include as a filler card. Because 2 points of damage for 1 red, we'll still get rid of a lot of stuff. It's pretty decent removal, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the instant is really nice too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the next one, Otherworldly Outburst. A red, the instant, target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. When the creature dies, this turn, put a 3/2 colors Eldrazi horror creature onto the battlefield. So it's a combat trick, and if your creature dies, then you get a 3/2 out of it. So you're not 2-for-1ing yourself, and I really like it because it's a nice combat trick to give you a bit of reach and to get a body out of it too.
It is so really good.
Yeah.
I think this is tier 2, the essence of tier 2 in red. I'm definitely playing this in red. Why? You're attacking with a creature, and then they think, you can't kill my guy because my guy's got an extra toughness. They say, boom, not true. Now my guy can kill your creature. Sure, mine dies too because it doesn't boost the toughness, only the power. But then their creature's dead, and you got an additional 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror token onto the battlefield, which is going to be sick. I think this card is going to do great things in limited. Absolutely. Then we have Borrowed Hostility for 1 red. It's an instant with Escalate 3. So we've looked at this already before. We've got this one's got 2 options. So for 1 red, we can do one of the options, and for 4 mana, we can do both. In this case, the first option is target creature gets +3/+0 until the end of turn. For 1 red, that's very good. That's going to give huge potential to destroy your opponent's creatures during combat. And the second ability is target creature gains first strike until end of turn. Needless to say, if you do both of these, you're going to be killing something, and you're not going to have to trade, because the first strike is going to mean that your guy is probably going to survive that combat.
And you can do it on 2 separate things.
And you can do it on 2 separate. That is, it's really. I actually think this card is really good. That's tier 2. You got it. You got these kind. If you have Otherworldly Outburst, Borrowed Hostility, a couple of more cards, then it's really pushing you into red just because of these common cards already.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
So Falconheart Reaver, 1 on a red. It's a 2/2 vampire. So it's just a bear. It's a really good filler. I mean, it's still a bear, so yeah.
What more can we say about it?
Not much.
Not much, but it's just a very decent. You need these cards. You need these cards in your deck, and they do work definitely. Then we have the next card, and that is Thermal Alchemist. For 2 mana, it's a 0/3 human shaman, and it has Defender. So this guy's not attacking anytime soon, but it also has an ability. It says tap it, and then it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Well, you're only gonna have 1 opponent in most cases, so that's that. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, untap Thermal Alchemist. Okay. When you look at it really quick, it may seem like a pretty bad card because it's okay. That's a 0/3 and it's only doing 1 point of damage. However, it's guaranteed damage. Plus, you can do it at the end of your opponent's turn, which means you can still use it to block a 0/3, so you can block all the bears. And if you are playing with instant sorceries, which you probably are if you're playing with red and maybe another color such as blue, and of course your removal is usually instant sorceries, so you're going to have them anyway, then this thing starts to get a lot more reach. And I actually think it's a pretty decent filler for 2 mana, so I would say tier 3.
Yeah, it blocks, it does damage, so it does what you want.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
So next one, the Stamp of the Blood. It's 1 and a red, it's a sorcery. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. It has Madness cost for 1. I don't really like it because it's sorcery speed.
Yeah.
So it gets +2/+2 and trample, but people won't know what you're doing, so they can anticipate it.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like it. Just put it aside.
You really can't get any value out of it because of the sorcery. Sure, you can if you got a lot of madness enabling cards, because then you could do it instant speed, most likely. But yeah, then you also need that, and you need to have both cards at the same time. So I also just don't think it's going to be good enough. Then we have Brazen Wolves for 3 mana. We've got a 2/3 wolf, and it says whenever this guy attacks, it gets +2/+0 till the end of turn. So in essence, we're going to be attacking with this thing because we're red, so we're going to be a little bit more aggressive. And every time we're going to be able to attack with a 4/3. And not only for 3 mana. I think that's really strong, and I think that's going to be able to kill a lot of stuff, and it's going to make it really hard for people to block this creature. Also because it still has 3 toughness, which is also pretty high.
Yeah.
So I would say tier 2 actually.
Yeah, it's a really good card. I mean, 4/3 for 3 is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Stansia's Banquet, it's a 200 red sorcery. Stansia's Banquet deals damage to target opponent equal to the number of vampires you control, and you draw a card. So you really have to have a lot of vampires to do anything, and you can't do to a creature, so that's a
and sorcery speed.
And sorcery speed.
Yeah.
You get to draw a card though.
Ooh, yay. So no.
Just put it aside.
Exactly.
If you have mono vampires, sure, but you have to have mono vampires first.
And even then, you're still just doing damage to an opponent. Huh? I mean, if it would at least be instant speed dealing damage to a creature or an opponent, then I'd say, okay, good. Then you got the reach end game, or you can use it as removal. But this is just, it's not gonna cut it, I think. Next card, Make Mischief for 3 mana is a sorcery, and it deals 1 point of damage to target creature or player. Then we also get to put a 1/1 red devil creature token onto the battlefield, and when that creature dies, it also deals 1 point of damage to our creature or player. So in essence, we're paying 3 mana to deal 1 point of damage right now, and we get a creature that should it die, it does another point. I really don't like these 1/1 devils that when they die, they deal a point of damage, because people know what's happening. They know that if that thing dies, you're going to be able to do it damage. So it's very easy to anticipate and to play around it. And when people can do that, then they can set you up in a situation where it's not advantageous for you, where you're not going to get the value from it that you need. So I would also just put this card aside.
Yeah. So next one, Stansia's Innkeeper. 3 in a red, it's a vampire, a 3/3, and when Stansia's Innkeeper enters the battlefield, tap target land an opponent controls. The land doesn't untap during his control's next untap step. So it taps a land, and then you get a tempo swing a bit. So it's a decent card of 4 mana 3/3, so put in tier 3.
Yeah, already just for 4 mana 3/3 body, I'm happy with that as a filler. And the fact that you're tapping a land which they can't use next turn, you don't see that effect very often. No. This is a very rare effect, and to tell you the truth, if I would get this, I would probably include it either way, not because it's tier 2, because it is tier 3, but just because I'm so curious to see how this will play out, what the effect will be of tapping a land and they not being able to use it next turn. Very curious. Next card is Alchemist's Greeting for 5 mana. We get a sorcery, and this card deals 4 damage to target creature. So again, it's really limited, doesn't do it to an opponent, which you might need at some point, and does have Madness for 2. Once again, might be relevant. Let's just look at the card by itself. 5 mana for 4 damage, sorcery only to a creature. I'm really not happy with that, to tell you the truth. Sure, it's removal, and it is, you're gonna use it because you just at a certain point you just need a couple of removal cards, and this will make the cut probably. It's filler card, but come on, for red, they're really not impressing me with this card.
No, it isn't great, but if you really need removal, you can use it.
Yeah, think about it. Somebody puts down one of those 5 toughness creatures or 6 or some one of those draws, you got nothing with this.
True.
Yeah, it's true.
So next one, Filled In Pack Outcast. 4 and a red. It's a Will of Horror, a 4/4 with trample, and for 1 red, Filled In Pack Outcast gets +1 -1 at the end of turn, and for 5 and 2 red, you can transform him. So a 4/4 for 5 with trample is already decent enough.
Sick, yeah.
And then you can pump it up at the cost of this toughness though.
Yeah, 3 times.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty nice. But it also transforms for 7 mana and transforms into Drone Pack Conduit. Does will still a 5/7 with trample, so that's really nice. And then the ability is a colorless or any mana. Drone Pack Conduit gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So you won't lose the toughness anymore.
No. This card is so good. I am amazed that it is in
Common.
Not that it's in red, but that it's in common.
Yeah.
For 5 mana, first being a 4/4 with trample, that is sick. That's really good. That's going to kill a lot of stuff. On top of that, being able to transform it whenever you want, not some weird clause when you've got Delirium plus your opponent has exactly 3 cards in their hand and they have this weird haircut. No, none of those kind of requirements. It's just, you got the 7 mana, boom, then you got a fatty, and that thing is going to be doing so much work because you can pump it, and even if you don't 5/7 with trample, that is sick. Unheard of. We're going to put this tier 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just tier 1, everything you want.
Everything you want. All right, those are the common cards. Let's have a look at the uncommon cards. The first of our uncommons is Incendiary Flow for 2 mana. It's a sorcery, which deals 3 damage to target creature or player, which is great because now we got some options. You can do to either creature or player. And should a creature dealt damage by this card die, then it's exiled instead of going to the graveyard. Awesome. For 2 mana, you're doing 3 points of damage. Hits a lot of stuff. This is really good removal for very cheap. Too bad it's sorcery speed, but actually still really, really good. Then again, if you've got a creature that of your opponents that you really don't want them to reanimate somehow, then in combat, for example, you can have it be dealt damage by one of your creatures and then use the Incendiary Flow to deal the final lethal damage to get it into the graveyard after all. So you can use that as kind of a reach method. But just by itself, 3 damage for 2 mana, tier 2.
Yeah, it's a good card. So next one, Fury Blade Vampire. 1 in red, it's a Vampire Berserker, a 1/2 with trample. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, you may discard a card. If you do, Fury Blade Vampire gets +3/+0 until end of turn. I don't really like that you have to discard before attacking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I want to put it tier 3 because it's just a decent filler. Because it can do a lot of things, but I don't think it will do enough for me. So that's why I put it tier 3.
Yeah. I think it's right on the edge. It's at the bottom part of tier 3 because simply that 1/2 body is not impressing me, and I really don't want to be giving up cards just for a 4/2 trampler one time, and then of course you got this card plus the card you had to discard. I think it's too much. I think it's going to be too much. Then we have Deranged Whelp for 2 mana. It's a 2/1 wolf, but this guy has Menace, which means it's going to be a lot harder to block because it can only be blocked by 2 or more creatures. Now, for 2 mana, he's not a 2/2 because he's only got the 1 toughness, but people do need to block with 2 things, so 1/1 tokens, for example, are going to be less of an issue. I kind of like this. I think it's going to do work better than the Fury Blade Vampire we just saw, but still just filler, so it's going to be tier 3. Just it's either a 2/2 or this guy. Both are okay. Yeah, for that mana.
So next one, Savage Alliance. 2 in a red, an instant with Escalate, and Escalate cost is 1. So you can choose creatures target player controls, gain trample until end of turn. Savage Alliance deals 2 damage to target creature, or Savage Alliance deals 1 damage to each creature target opponent controls. So it does a lot of things and a lot of damage, and I really like it because of that. So that's why I put it at tier 2.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do damage to a creature, give trample, and do trample to give damage to all the creatures target opponent controls.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Think about it. You've got if you've got 3 and then 4, 5. So you got 5 mana open. You're gonna swing in with your creatures. Then they might block, and you say, okay, that creature is gonna take 2 points of damage. The other creatures are all gonna take 1 point of damage. Actually, one creature is gonna take 3 points of damage.
Yeah.
So one creature is gonna take 3 points of damage. The other ones are all gonna take 1 point of damage plus. My creatures now have trample, and your creatures have taken already damage, so the trample damage that is actually not going to hit those creatures anymore is going to go over them and hit our opponent. So we're going to be able to do tons and tons of damage with this card. Instant speed, nice combat trick, also removal. What else does it do? Everything you want, tier 2, right?
Yeah.
Next one we have Abandoned Reason for 3 mana. It's an instant, up to 2 target creatures, each get +1/+0, and for strike until end of turn. It also has Madness for 2. Now for 3 mana, instant speed, being able to have 2 of your creatures get a buff and getting first strike means you might be able to kill 2 of your opponent's creatures with this one card. And I think that is actually really sick. Tier 2 actually.
Yeah, it is. So next one, Weaver of Lightning. 2 in a red, a human shaman, a 1/4 with reach. So that's actually pretty good already, a 1/4 with reach.
And we don't see reach very often in red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can block all those flyers. It's a good body, but also has the ability that whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, Weaver of Lightning deals 1 damage to target creature an opponent controls. So it's a good body, and then it deals more damage whenever you play an instant and sorcery.
Yeah.
So that's really nice, and that's why I want to put it in tier 2.
Yeah. Even if you're not going heavy instants and sorceries, you're still going to have a couple of removal spells anyway, and just with a few of those in your deck, this thing's going to be giving you value because on turn 3 it's blocking everything. It's blocking those Eldrazi horrors because it's got 4 toughness. And are you casting removal spells, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to cast a removal spell, deal 3 damage to that one creature, kill it, and then this Weaver of Lightning will say, let's do another point of damage to that 1/1 or that 2/1, and we actually removed 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be awesome value. Really good card, actually.
Yeah, it
Love
is.
it. Tier 2, awesome. Next one, Shreds of Sanity for 3 mana. It's a sorcery, and it states return up to 1 target instant card and up to 1 sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Then you discard a card, and then we exile this card. I don't really like it. Even if you're playing heavy, I'd rather just have another removal spell, another tempo spell, rather than this one, than have to look for hope that they're in my graveyard to get them back. It's awkward. Sure, there's an ideal scenario where you do get a lot of value out of this. I just don't think that's going to happen in Limited, so just put it aside.
Yeah, it's the chance that you can do anything with it is too small to merit putting it in.
Yeah.
So that's why I put it aside. So next one, Conduit of Storms. 2 in a red. It's a 2/3 Werewolf Horror, and whenever Conduit of Storm attack, add 1 red to your mana pool at the beginning of your next main phase this turn. So when you attack with it, the second main phase you get another red.
Nice.
Yeah, so it won't mana ramp you. But for 5 mana, you can transform Conduit of Storm for 3 and 2 red. And then it transforms into Conduit of Emrakul. Another Eldrazi Werewolf, a 5/4, and whenever Conduit of Emrakul attacks, add 2 colors mana to your mana pool and at the beginning of your next main phase. So instead of the red, you get 2 colorless instead. So it's a really nice card. The body is decent already. It can transform anytime for 5 mana. It mana ramps you, and then transforms into a 5/4, which also mana ramps you. So a tier 2 card for me.
Yeah, I cannot see any situation where you would not be happy playing this on turn 3. The body's relevant. The fact that it can transform whenever you want. All you need is the mana, not like once again those weird prerequisites. And it's a mana ramping as well, something that you usually get in green. Now all of a sudden red is doing it. This entire plane is going crazy. It's going crazy, and I love it. Awesome card. Next uncommon is Blood Mist for 4 mana. It's an enchantment, and it says at the beginning of combat of your turn, target creature you control gains double strike until the end of turn. Now, we usually don't like enchantments, usually because they're auras. However, this one's just on the battlefield, so it's way harder to remove. Actually, this one, once it's coming down, it's not leaving. So essentially you're saying for 4 mana, from now on, every turn, I'm going to go beginning of my turn, beginning of my combat, who is going to get double strike? Let's give that to the 3/2 Eldrazi Horror, for example. Bam, now that thing's doing 6 damage if you're not blocking it. And should it have trample, then we're really laughing because then we're doing even more damage. I really like it. Sure, you're not doing anything that changes the board state on turn 4, which is usually not something we like to do. We usually like something that keeps the board state going. But I think the effect for the long term is going to be so strong, that double strike, because it's not just dealing twice as much damage. You're giving that creature first strike and the regular strike. So it's also super hard to block. Blood Mist, I'd say tier 2.
Yeah, tier 2. So next one, Smoldering Werewolf. 2 and 2 red, a Werewolf Horror, a 3/2, and when Smoldering Werewolves enter the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. So it's a 3/2 for 4, which isn't that great, but it deals 2 damage when it comes in, and it can transform for 6 mana, 4 and 2 red, and then transforms into Erupting Dreadwolf. A Dreadwolf, a 6/4, and whenever Erupting Dreadwolf attacks, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So after that, it just transforms into a 6/4 that does 2 damage regardless. And I really like that one because it gives you reach, it's still a 6/4, and it will cost a bit of mana, but I think in limited you'll get to it. So for me, it's a tier 2.
Absolutely. For 4 mana, just having a 3/2, as you said, maybe not super great, but the body is fine. Plus, it might be able to destroy 1 creature or 2 creatures. One or 2 creatures, and the fact, once again, no shenanigans, just transform it into something that's potentially killing something every turn as it's attacking, and maybe even another thing if people block it with something smaller. Exactly. So good. So tier 2, absolutely. Then we have Insatiable Gorges for 4 mana. It's a 5/3 Vampire Berserker, and this creature needs to attack each combat if able. It also has Madness cost for 4, so it's the same cost. So essentially, let's have a look at it. For 4 mana, we get a 5/3. That's actually quite a lot of power for 4 mana.
Yeah.
I don't like the 3 toughness because it's going to die, but it will take something down with it, regardless. It will always take something down with it. And even if it takes down an Eldrazi Horror, that's going to be probably the least impressive thing it's going to take down, still okay. Imagine if you got a combat trick as well. People think, that is going to be tricky to block this guy. I don't like the fact that you have to attack with it. So that's why it brings it a little bit down. I say mid-tier 3 because of that. But still acceptable filler.
Yeah, if you really need a heavy hitter, it hits heavy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hard. So, next one, Spreading Flames. 6 and a red, instant. Spreading Flames deals 6 damage, divided as you choose among any number of target creatures. So, only creatures, but it's an instant and still 6 damage, divided as you want. So, I really like this one, even if the cost is really steep. I want to put it in tier 2.
Absolutely, it's essentially a board wipe, as good as we're gonna get it, because you're gonna be able to kill at least 3 creatures with this, or even 1 big creature, and I think it's gonna do a lot of work because it handles. What's the great thing about it is that late game it handles both the weenie strategy when they're going wide and if they're going tall. So the versatility is actually really nice with that as well. Plus, it's an instant, so that is also really cool. Absolutely a tier 2 card. Well, those are the uncommons. Let's have a look at the rares.
The first rare is Hanwar Garrison. 2 and a red, it's a human soldier, a 2/3, and whenever Hanwar Garrison attacks, put 2 1/1 red human creature tokens on the battlefield tapped and attacking. So that's really good. I mean, a 2/3 for 3 mana is always nice, and when you attack, you get 2 tokens that already are attacking. So I like this one.
Yeah. Plus the tokens stay on the battlefield if they don't get killed. It's not that you have to exile them at the beginning of the next end step or anything. So you can start growing your army if they don't have decent blockers. Really strong.
Yeah. So it's a tier 1 for me.
Absolutely. You're gonna try and put this in no matter what. Actually, you're gonna try and play red if you've got this card.
And it melts with the next card.
Yes, that's Hanwar Battlements. That is a land, and this land taps for a colorless mana. You could also pay a red and tap this land to give a target creature haste until the end of turn. Nice. Could be cool for one of your big fatties later in the game. Additionally, if you've got this card, and Hanwar Garrison, then you pay 5 mana, you tap it, and then they get exiled. They come back transformed as Hanwar the Writhing Township. Before we go into that card, by itself, Handler Battlements, I would still say tier 2 if you're in red. Auto included, it's only going to do good stuff being able to give things haste. Okay, now, what happens when they've melded together? They become Handler the Riding Township, they're an Eldrazi Ooze, and it's a 7/4 trample haste. Oh my god, that is so strong. It's going to be doing so much damage. Additionally, whenever this guy attacks, you get to put a 2/3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So those 1/1s now are 3/2s. Super sick. Needless to say, if you've got this, you won the game. Just say, okay, I melded them, I've won, let's just do a new game. The likelihood that you have, of course, both Handler Garrison and Handler Battlements is very small. Should you have it, just pop them both in because it's gonna be a party if they connect.
Exactly.
All right.
So the next one, Harmless Offering. It's 2 and a red, sorcery, target opponent gains control to off target permanent you control. So for 3 mana, you can give something away. I mean, who doesn't like giving a person?
Exactly. Limited. I can't even wrap my head around when this could possibly be used in a limited environment. So just put it aside. Somebody in Commander or in some kind of a constructed format is gonna figure out a way that this is gonna work and it's gonna be fun. But don't do it during your pre-release or your release.
Yeah, just put it aside.
Yeah. Then we have a Stormkirk Occultist for 3 mana. It's a 3/2 vampire horror, so the body's fine for the price. That's okay. It's also got trample. Okay, sure. Makes it a little bit harder to block with 1/1s, so that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then whenever this guy deals combat damage to a player, which it most likely will because it's got trample, exile the top card of your library until the end of the turn you may play that card. Hey, awesome. So it's card advantage. He's kind of drawing a card in the way that red does, which is just exiling the top card. You have to play it that turn. But you know what? You're going to leave all your mana open, and then you're going to attack. People think, wait a second, do they have a combat trick? Are they going to do this? I don't know. It gets through, deals damage, then you still have all your mana open, and you play the card that you exiled. Super cool. Plus it also has Madness for 2, so maybe you can cheat it in cheaper. But even if you don't, doesn't matter. For 3 mana, this card is really good. Tier 2.
Yeah. So next one, Collective Defiance. 1 and 2 red is sorcery with Escalate. Escalate cost is 1, and you can choose target player discards all the cards in his or her hand and draws that many cards. Collective Defiance deals 4 damage to target creature, or Collective Defiance deals 3 damage to target opponent. So it's already really nice because for 3 mana you do 4 damage.
That's already fine.
Yeah.
Just by itself.
If
it was just that card, then you say, tier 2, pop it in.
Exactly.
3 damage, deal 4 damage to target creature.
And you can do even more if you want to.
Yeah.
So put in tier 2.
If you want to get fancy, you want to pay 5 mana, sure, you're doing an addition damage to your opponent, give you that little bit of extra reach. And if you've got only lands for the rest of your hand, you think, all right, let's put these away and let's get some new cards. Pretty cool. Helps you dig a little bit. Yeah, really nice card actually. Then we have Impetuous Devils for 4 mana. We get a 6/1 Devil with trample and haste. Also, when this guy attacks, up to 1 target creature defending player controls must block this combat if able. And beginning of the end step, sacrifice this guy. Well, it doesn't matter because this guy's dying because he's only got 1 toughness. It's going to come in. It's got haste, so you're attacking immediately. Essentially, what this is a 4 mana removal spell.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it is. And you know what? I like removal spells that do 6 points of damage. So I would definitely see this as a good filler. The problem why it's not tier 2 is because it's still a creature and it has to attack. And there's so many moments when that can go wrong. So that's why that could be a problem. But other than that, yeah, I'll probably find a spot in it. Tier 3, good filler.
Exactly. So next one, Assembled Alphas. 5 in the red, it's a wolf. It's a 5/5 wolf, and whenever Assembled Alpha blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, Assembled Alphas deal 3 damage to the creature and 3 damage to the creature's controller. So it's a 5/5 that deals 3 damage when it gets blocked or blocks itself, and it does damage then, and if you don't block, you just take 5. So it's really good. I mean, if you block it, you have to block it with at least 3 toughness, else it just dies immediately before actually doing anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it still blocks the creature.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. You can still block it with a 1/1, and
Yeah.
because you're going to deal 3 damage, and it's still going to block the 5/5. So, in essence, you need to block it with a 9 toughness creature. Do you want it to survive? Because if you're doing 5 damage plus a 3, so that's 8. So in essence, either block it with a 1/1 or a 9/9. But don't half-ass it. You gotta go all or nothing. This card is so good, so strong. For 6 mana, it's a 5/5. That's already a great body. There's not a lot of stuff that's 5/5 in this set. Not a lot of stuff. Sure, you got the Eldrazi. Those are huge, super big, and this one's still quite affordable for 6 mana to cast. And the fact that it's also doing damage to your opponent, also damage to your creature. It's doing everything you want to do. So strong. So awesome. Cool wolves. Then we have Bedlam Reveler for 8 mana. We have a 3/4 Devil Horror. I'm not too impressed by a 3/4 for 8 mana. Then, but this guy does cost 1 less for each instant sorcery card in your graveyard. Okay, yeah, so you might get a 2, maybe a 3 mana discount on this thing, which would bring it to an okay price. Then it also has Prowess, which we do like. Prowess is pretty cool, especially because you're playing instant sorceries, because obviously you're trying to get this thing as cheap as possible. Mm-hmm. And when this guy enters the battlefield, discard your hand and draw 3 cards. Well, as the cost already implies, you're going to be playing this late game when you probably got nothing else in your hand. So it's going to be drawing you 3 cards, which is pretty cool. Gives you a little body, but that's it. I think it's going to be doing work because of the card draw. That's why I like it, and the fact that it gives you a decent body. So that's why we're putting it in tier 2. If it would have a bigger body, then it would be definitely tier 1. Try and build around it. But this guy is just included if you're in red and try and look for. You need other good red cards. You can't just build red just because you got this card.
Yeah. So that were the wares. Let's look at the mythics. So the first mythic is Nahir's Ward. It's 2 in a red. It's a sorcery. An additional cost to cast Nahir's Ward. Discard X cards. And Nahir's Ward deals damage equal to the total converted mana cost of the discarded cards to each of up to X target creatures and or planeswalkers. So it doesn't do damage to opponent, but I like it because of the versatility. You have to discard stuff, so that's a downside. But if you discard a couple cards, you can just board wipe essentially. Yeah,
I don't think you're going to be board wiping. You're a little bit more excited about this card than I am. Let's just break it down into a scenario. You're in the game. It's turn 5 or something. Doesn't matter. And you're gonna play. You're gonna pay 3 mana. Then you have to discard this card because you're casting it. You're casting Nahir's Wrath, so that card is gone. Then you're discarding 2 more cards. You're discarding, let's say, a 2 mana and another 2 mana card. Now you've paid 3. You're essentially down 3 cards and 3 mana to be able to do 4 damage to 2 creatures. Yes. Is it good? Absolutely. Absolutely. I would definitely play this. Is it a board wipe? No, because essentially you're down 3 cards to get rid of 2 cards, and you also pay 3 mana. So I would say, I'll probably put it in as a filler. But to tell you the truth, I just think you're gonna 2-for-1 yourself far more often than that you're gonna get a great advantage out of it. So I don't really like it that much. But tier 3. Yeah, you like it. All right. Next, we're going to go to Mirror Wing Dragon for 5 mana. It's a 4/5 flyer. Ooh, 5 toughness is big. Great 4 power in the air is awesome. 5 mana, super cheap. This dragon has that whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell that targets only this dragon, then that player copies that spell for each other creature he or she controls. That spell could target. Each copy targets a different of those creatures. So this means that people can't really cast a removal spell on it, because then they would kill all their creatures. I don't want that. Plus it also means that if you've got a pump spell, you can cast it on your dragon, then all your creatures get pumped. How awesome is that?
And also, if your opponent has a pump spell,
exactly.
They pump all their creatures.
Yes. They pump your dragon first, of course. Your dragon's also pumped, but then their stuff's also pumped. Sure. If they do that, just say, all right, great. I applaud you for your ingenious ability to pump my dragon, to pump all your other creatures. But in the meantime, they can't use any removal spell against it for risk of losing all their creatures. Sick, tier 1, you got this. You drop it, you say, okay, I'm playing red. I don't care if all I have are those put aside cards. We're building this deck with the Mirror Wing Dragon. It is so awesome. Those are the mythics. Let's have a look at the conclusion.
So, conclusion, red is actually really good. I mean, there's some decent removal, some good removal, but a lot of tier 2, a lot of tier 1 cards. A tier 1 card in common.
Yeah.
So,
I gotta say, I'm very excited for red. I'm not usually that excited for red. However, the burn is good. As you said, the removal is decent. It does what red wants to do. But I'm mostly just amazed by the quality of the creatures. They're aggressive, but they also give you value. So many of these creatures give your opponent an awkward situation where they can't block properly. They don't know what's going to happen. And the combat tricks are phenomenal. If you don't have any of the good removal spells, go with the combat tricks because they're going to give you such versatility and blowouts. And they're very cheap in this set. And I think it's going to be able to do a lot of work. You're in red anyway. These creatures are attacking. They're gaining you value. You got your combat tricks. I think red is going to be a very solid color to be your main color in your deck. Absolutely. Well, now don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on this video because it helps us out a lot. We want to spread the word, and you guys can help us to do that. You can also join us on Facebook and Twitter, where you can just message us and we can talk about cards, talk about the set. Just tweet at us, tell us what you think, tell us we're wrong, tell us that we didn't evaluate these cards correctly, that a tier 2 should have been a tier 3 and that we're crazy. Just let us know. Absolutely, we got it right. Also, let us know. That we would appreciate it. I guess that is it. Although after this, you're going to see the other videos of Eldritch Moon we've reviewed and the upcoming ones. So the next one is of course green. Make sure to check that out as well. That's it. Thanks for watching. I'm David.
I'm Stefan.
And this is Budget MTG Decks.